All right, before I go to the reconciliation bill, I want to go back because I was running out of time with the former Secretary of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. He made reference to this, and I wanted to play this clip. I've got a clip. He made a reference to children being transported in the middle of the night, and that's what's happening with these unaccompanied minors. I've got a clip of the White House Secretary, Jen Psaki, yesterday. She was being asked about this by Fox News' Peter Doocy about these middle of the night flights being coordinated by the Biden administration from the border. Play clip number 4.
Why is the administration flying thousands of migrants from the border to Florida and New York in the middle of the night?
Well, I'm not sure that it's in the middle of the night, but let me tell you what's happening here.
2:13 a.m., 4:29 a.m.
Well,
very early in the morning.
Here we are talking about early flights, earlier than you might like to take a flight. It is our legal responsibility to safely care for unaccompanied children until they can be swiftly unified with a parent or a vetted sponsor.
And also, it's difficult to get pictures of all of this in the middle of the night when it's under the cover of darkness. Why not in the middle of the afternoon when kids are wide awake? Unless the media might be there to cover. Of course, the legacy media is not going to cover this. But we've seen already how this administration wants to shut down media coverage at the border when the fiasco took place with the 15,000 Haitian immigrants trying to get across the border. So, look, this administration does not want to own up to what their policies have led to. And these children are being transported across the country and placed in cities. Now, look, I am for legal immigration, but it has to be legal. And what we have here is we're being essentially overrun by illegal immigration. 1.7 million people apprehended at the border, and as the former secretary said, 400,000, almost 500,000 people have gotten into the country and are here. And that's just in the basically the 9 months of the Biden administration. What's another 3 years of the Biden administration going to accomplish? Well, it's a good segue into our next topic, and that is the issue of the Democrats' $3.5 trillion Build Government Bigger plan. Now, why do I say that's a good transition? Because this bill even deals with immigration. Yes, that's one of the lefties' grab bag pieces in this huge funding bill. Now, as I said earlier, at the top of the program with Senator Daines, this is being negotiated. The price tag may end up being, well, if it passes, it's going to be less than the $3.5 trillion. Senator Manchin of West Virginia says he's not going to vote for anything over 1.5. We'll see how much he gives. We'll see how much the president gives. But what else? In addition to immigration, these green spending plans, what else is in this bill? Well, joining us for our final analysis of the bill is Connor Semelsberger. He is the Director of Federal Affairs here at the Family Research Council. Connor, welcome back.
Good to be back again, Tony.
I do hope you left since I told you to stay there and I forgot after the program that you could leave. So I hope you haven't been there.
Hard at work ever since.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about what's tucked away in this nearly 2,500-page bill when we look at goodies for leftists. Let me start where I mentioned the immigration. How does this bill touch on the immigration issue?
Yeah, with this package, they really went bold on immigration. Original drafts had amnesty for around 8 million students, young people, and others that have come to this country illegally. There was amnesty right at the beginning. One thing that's important to note, though, is back to how we understand this whole process, reconciliation, is there are some constraints. While it does allow the Senate to pass this bill with 50 votes, what they're beholden to is something we call the Byrd Rule, named after Senator Byrd, which ensures that any provisions through this reconciliation process must be germane, must be related to budget. And thankfully, the Senate parliamentarian, the person that sort of oversees these rules, has already sort of tampered their expectations on amnesty and other things. But don't don't be fooled. They're going to try everything they can to still push through reforms to illegal immigration, just like you mentioned at the border, and weaken the existing protections on legal immigration.
So one of the provisions, and I'm not sure if this made it past the Byrd rule or not, was that it allowed DHS to waive previous convictions for human trafficking, narcotics violations, and illegal voting for those seeking to receive citizenship status. So basically saying, we're not going to pay attention to what you did and how you might undermine the rule of law here in this country. Is that provision still in there?
It seems to be, based on what we've seen. And this is the key point. You know, they started way out to the left. Bernie's proposed plan, amnesty, full Green New Deal, you name it. But as you come back to the middle, even things like this that are so progressive, which would so change our immigration things, like you said, waiving human trafficking violations. I mean, this is something so far out of step. But it almost, they're going to try to sell it as being moderate to the American public because where they started was so progressive. Even things like this, I think, are still going to remain intact and might be there at the end of the day when this package is settled.
All right, we're working our way to the Green New Deal, but before we get there, one of the provisions here when it comes to the vaccine mandate, we were talking earlier with Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel of the Biden vaccine mandate. We're still waiting for the rules to come out, but in advance of that, in this measure, the reconciliation bill, there is a provision that increases OSHA penalties on businesses that fail to implement. It could be applied. This language is not in there, but it could be applied to the vaccine mandate, multiplying these penalties up to $700,000 per violation. That goes from, I think that's about a tenfold increase over the existing fines that they're able to levy against businesses. And this includes $2.6 billion in funding for the enforcement of these mandates.
Yeah, it is that tenfold increase. You know, they're setting up the regulatory apparatus now. They get those regulations in place through Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Then if they get this bill passed, that's exactly right. They would increase those penalties to $700,000 per business. We've already highlighted all the issues with the military vaccine mandate. Now we're talking about the businesses, continuing to go after them and force them on these COVID vaccines, but it's not specific to COVID vaccines. It's any health and safety regulation this administration wants to start slapping down businesses on.
I mean, that would destroy a business. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at small businesses, if you and this is per violation, if you received a violation of $700,000, I mean, that destroys your business.
Yeah, it would. I mean, you talk about a small business that's maybe struggling to get workers back. The revenue's been trickling in because of COVID. Now you throw this on top of it, boy, Main Street around the country could be doomed.
All right. Also, snooping in your bank account. Where does that stand?
Yeah, I mean, it's still on the table because of some of this negotiating. They need to start paying for some of this spending. And one of the ways they tend to do that is through IRS enforcement, looking through our bank accounts. And it doesn't stop there. It's your PayPal account, your Venmo account. They really want to look at anything over $600 in an account and sift through all the types of exchanges you make between even family and friends. This would now be the property of the IRS.
Now, this is worse than Big Brother, what's tucked away in these 2,500 pages. Okay, we're going to get to AOC's Green New Deal. This is a point of contention as Senator Manchin of West Virginia, Coal State, we talked about earlier, he's not for these overreaching provisions. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. This would force Americans to get 40% of their energy from wind and solar and other renewable energies within 8 years. It creates a methane tax. It includes a tax on natural gas. This would cost nearly 90,000 American jobs, and this would drive up the cost of energy dramatically. How can you say that this bill, these taxes, these provisions won't affect the middle class?
Yeah, to follow up on something we had discussed, and that's the big tax credit for electric vehicles. Think about that person living in West Virginia or Pennsylvania that might be losing their job if this passes because the coal plant they've worked at forever or the natural gas place they've worked at forever is now shut down. Now they try to go buy maybe a used car. They can't because these subsidies, who do they benefit? The wealthy, not those middle-class Americans. I mean, that's just one example, but it can go on and on how this will really impact middle-class Americans, both in their energy, how they spend that for their own home, but even the business sectors as well.
All right, Connor, you have been a part of putting together a publication on this that will help people go a little bit deeper in what is tucked away in this reconciliation bill, this Build Government Bigger plan. Where can people get it and what's in it?
Yeah, so if you go to frc.org/spending, you'll see the 6 most important things you should know about this Biden anti-family budget buster, or the Build Government Bigger. That's what it is. It's laced in this language to help families, to tax the Wall Street corporations. But as we've highlighted these last few sessions here, it's anything but that. It really actually goes after families, family formation, funding abortions, penalizing marriage, getting rid of work requirements. You name it. They want to send your kids to institutionalized daycare, radicalize them as soon as they possibly can, and they're going to pass this all under the guise of a 50-vote Senate, minimums in the House, not a single Republican vote. This is how they're trying to reshape America. If you check out this resource, it outlines all those major family provisions for you.
I mean, kind of what you just said there, reshape America. This really is something that the left has been trying to do for decades. It's all rolled into one bill. And they're using this provision of reconciliation to skirt any type of bipartisan support for these radical policies. I mean, this fundamentally changes America. What we saw under Barack Obama will pale in comparison to this.
Yeah, you look at Obamacare, that was just a health care provision, and we had such a tough time getting real answers from the Democrats on that. This is Obamacare plus 10 of their top socialist priorities, all in one bill, like you said, whisked around in the middle of the night, not talked about with the other side of the aisle. And so it's frightening to see where Congress has gotten to, where this is what they're pushing through. But we at FRC are going to be continuing to fight for family issues here on Capitol Hill day in and day out.
All right, Connor, before I let you go, what can people do? This is not a done deal yet. The Democrats are still having to negotiate with themselves to try to get something through. And quite frankly, I love to see this. It's like, you see scorpions and tarantulas together kind of fighting one another, because you got the progressives in the Democratic Party and the moderates. And so this is kind of a fight among Democrats right now. How can we help them out?
Yeah, keep engaging. First, inform yourself with all the resources we've just provided you all, the videos and the talking points. But please, please, please let your members of Congress and definitely your senators know what you care about, where you want your tax dollars spent or not spent. Because like you said, let them keep fighting this out. Time is against them right now. There's all this infighting. Please keep letting your members of Congress and senators know where you want them to be advocating for your values.
All right, Connor, great work in analyzing this massive piece of legislation. We appreciate your insight and your diligence. Thanks so much for joining us in these sessions as we try to inform our listeners what is contained in this massive $3.5 trillion bill.
Yeah, such a pleasure to work on these issues day in and day out, and happy to be back again.